Hi, this is Jay Hummel. Welcome to the deep dive. So excited today to have a good friend and mentor of mine on the show. I think we're doing a topic that's a little bit different than what we historically have done, and so we're really lucky to have Keith Lawrence. Keith, I know you're extremely busy. I really appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Jay, with your listeners. I know we're going to have a great conversation together.
Yeah, Keith, just give the viewers a little bit of a background on you and kind of what you're up to.
Well, I've been very fortunate to have about 50 years of experience in business. I spent 32 years as an executive in Procter & Gamble. It was a very forming experience for me, and I graduated/retired from there about 15 years ago. Since then, we've done many, many different things. We have an Amazon 1% best-selling book on retirement, which you and I have talked about it many times. But my current passion in here is I now have 4 grandsons, and I am working hard to, one, understand what is this world going to look like that they're going to be growing up in, and how we can prepare them to succeed in that. And we're doing that in partnership with several local schools here in the area to help them shift the paradigm of how they teach and prepare their students for the future.
You and I are passionate about financial advisors doing more for clients, and we're passionate about being good dads and you as a grandfather. And one of the things that I asked you, having, you're humble, the listeners, Keith has hired and mentored thousands of people, employees, executives. And the question I continue to get, because I have a 13-year-old son, an 11-year-old son, and a 9-year-old daughter. And the question I always get is, how would you give them advice living in the world that they're going to be in, with artificial intelligence in the world that we're going through? And so that's how this episode came about. And so I know you're doing a lot of work, and I know you're passionate. So maybe the thought, we could go through some of those pillars in the way that you're helping schools and you're helping parents and you're helping executives think about what are the skill sets that they're going to need to teach people to be successful in the future.
Yeah, maybe before we jump into pillars, let's just talk about the reason why this is so important. What's the case for change here? And I think everyone on this, podcast today can probably appreciate the rate of change that's happening, but we're just beginning. I mean, many of the best leaders in the world, Jamie Dimon, Ford CEO, everyone's talking about how the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see more change in the next 10 years than we've seen in the last 100. And just think about our lifetime, Jay, how much has changed in our lifetime. And that's going to accelerate by a magnitude of 3. The current jobs that exist, I mean, half of them are going to be gone within 5 years. And what pains me is I spend time in local high schools, and I talk to seniors about writing their resume, applying for college. And I said, what are you going to go to school for? And it's like computer programming. And it's like that occupation is gone. All right. I mean, the unemployment rate for computer programmers today, graduates, right, is double what it is for a biology major. Okay, because those skills are already gone. So I think first, before we talk about what's needed, is make sure everybody understands why this is so important, because the world is changing exponentially, and we ourselves are experiencing it, those in the workforce already. But what do we do to help our children and grandkids prepare for that? But I think I've centered on, there's basically 5 pillars that, again, all of us should be thinking about for ourselves, but importantly, our children, maybe even our grandkids. And I can quickly maybe just walk through those, and we can do a deeper dive if you'd like. So
Love it. Love it.
And I'll give you some examples of how it's impacted my life, and I'm going to give a couple examples of what I see with your kids. All right, so we'll make this real personal here.
Let's do it.
So at the core of everything, which I think we all know, it begins with character, right? And character is those basic values and beliefs that we have. And so, what are we doing to help, equip our children, our grandchildren with the right character? And it starts with just understanding what those are. So I ask most people, I go, what are your core values that you're trying to teach to your kids? And they go, well, they maybe list a couple. So it starts with us being really clear on what those are. And for me personally, I have 5 that I'm trying to help my grandkids in particular. Hopefully we did that with our children, but form those core characters, because that, influences everything. If they don't have honesty, integrity, hard work, etc., all the rest of this is going to be a challenge. So it starts with getting clarity of character, and we'll talk about what you can do as a parent on those too, but I'm just going to go through the pillars. The next pillar is all about what I bucketed as analytical thinking. In the world, in this day and age of incredible change, your sons are going to need to be able to think on their feet, to be able to be creative, to be able to solve problems. And that can be done in many, many different ways. One of the things I'm trying to do in the spirit of building analytical thinking is when we go shopping in the grocery store, read the labels, right? You know, have them start thinking at a very young age, right, about what it takes to understand things, to solve problems, because that's going to be a critical component of what it takes to be successful. So that's the second pillar. Third pillar is what I call basic people skills. Again, this gets into which we again have seen, and I'm sure you're seeing it. You know, the younger generation has struggled with this. It's the ability to form relationships, talk to one another, deal with conflict. It hasn't. That's not saying that all the adults have figured this out either, right? Okay, just look at our government.
And you said something really important to me because I've always referred to that as EQ. And you said
Mm-hmm.
something to me when we were together last time was, I think it was RQ. You said there was a different way to think about that
Yeah, EQ.
in that pillar.
Yeah, great. It just shows you what a brilliant memory, Jay, you have it. You still have it, right?
For
Again,
now.
yeah, absolutely. EQ is a subset of RQ. RQ is relationship intelligence, right? Relationship quotient. And to have great relationships, there's many dimensions of that. One is being emotionally intelligent, to be aware of self-aware, to be aware of other people's emotions, how to deal with that. But there's also all kinds of other, like how do you deal with conflict? How do you solve problems? And then the fourth one I want to talk about here is around just resilience and grit. Again, life is tough at times. I think we all know that. Life is great too, but I think one of the key things we can do with our children is to how to build their ability to deal with setbacks. And again, as I've talked to a lot of parents, they're like, well, what do you want from your children in their college experience or their high school experience? Well, I want them to be happy. I don't want them to struggle, right? You don't need to challenge them so much. And it's like, that's not helpful to them,
No,
okay?
that's
And that
not the
has
way the real world works.
absolutely, but many of us don't do that. We enable and we come to the rescue of our children. We become helicopter parents. I mean, even in this day and age, parents are showing up in job interviews still. I mean, it is amazing what I hear about what parents are doing to coddle their children, which is not preparing them to be, ready for the real world out there.
Well, and I don't want to jump ahead on you because I think I have a feeling where you're going. And it was when I was thinking about doing the show with you today is how do you see that intersection? Because I know one of the pillars you're going to talk about at some point, or we're going to have a
Yeah,
conversation is entrepreneurship, right?
yeah.
And being able to think differently about creating companies. And maybe people don't need to go to college as much as they believe they needed to 10 years ago. And I think there's an interesting dichotomy, in my opinion, is you have a generation of helicopter parents who don't
Mhm.
allow their kids to fail, but the success in the future is going to be entrepreneurship. I mean, the definition of entrepreneurship is failing, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You fail and you have bad days and you have grit. So I was just curious. It was something I was thinking about as I was prepping for today. Is how do you see the overlap, given your history in the world, of how do we how do we teach kids to do that and be entrepreneurial if we're not going to let them fail?
Well, again, that gets into the great lead into the fifth bucket, what I could into all the kind of business career savviness, right? Understanding as you do with your clients, but hopefully they're doing with their children. It's financial savvy, right? Understanding the basics of business. I set up a savings account at Schwab with my 9-year-old grandson, and we're teaching him the basics of stocks, et cetera, right? So again, I think that's where as they get exposed to that, I mean, the Alpha School in fourth grade, okay, is teaching one of their classes how to start up and run a Airbnb. They actually do it, those 9 and 10-year-olds,
Do they
okay?
really?
Yes, I mean it is. When I think about that, it's just like, and I compare that to what the traditional schools are doing. I mean, but what are they doing by teaching that? They're teaching them the basics of financial management, entrepreneurship, teamwork, customer service. I mean, go down through the list of what they're doing in a real life, experience about how to run an Airbnb and how that's going to equip them for the future. So again, entrepreneurship. Again, there's 5 career pathways, which we can talk about. I think the traditional paradigm is and what the schools are measured against by the government now is percent of graduates to go to college. That is such a dated model, okay, and metric. There is clearly a time and place, and there will continue to be for college, right? But it is not the answer for everyone. I think that's the old paradigm that's just not going to play itself out in the future. And we're already seeing it today, okay? If
Yeah.
you look at what AI is going to do from the job market standpoint, right? The traditional high-paying white-collar job that's dealing with data information, that is history. Okay, one of the attractive career pathways that I'm championing right now with the local Boy Scouts, we're starting up a $2 million skills trades education center in January, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of children, youth in high school that don't want to sit in a classroom for another 4 years. That and we have countless examples where in high school they find out they love working with their hands, they love being outside, they love doing whatever, and they're graduating, and we have case study examples of seniors making $85,000 a year, 40-hour work week, no big student debt, right? And loving what they're doing, and an incredible future. And oh, by the way, that robot is not going to go, fix that building over there.
Yeah, I was going to say you're not going to replace a plumber with AI.
Well, and this is where, again, part of this is just changing our paradigm and building awareness. When I ask most parents and students, tell me about skills trades, it's viewed as less than. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wrote, for example, a white paper on the 10 myths of skilled trades. Again, no job security, it's dirty work, I'm going to not have my health, it doesn't pay anything, I get laid off all the time. We need to change our thinking to be able to open up this incredible opportunity for our youth in the future.
But I do think it's really going to be interesting, this iteration of what's happening with liberal arts colleges, is they might become back in vogue because of the critical thinking capabilities that they're going to think about teaching students, where the technical skills in some ways can be replaced by AI. So it just, I don't know if I'm right on that, but it was kind of an aha I've had in the last 6 months.
Well, again, I think they're going to teach, hopefully all schools are going to, but certainly those, you could make a case, I understand your point, Jay, that they're going to teach the importance, what I call the softer skills, but again, these are the important skills in the future. These are the skills that AI, to your point, is not going to replace. Interpersonal, creativity, innovation,
Yeah.
those are all attributes that are going to be key for success in the future. And to your point, the liberal arts school might have an edge in that. For those of us on the call with kids, right, we can't wait till they're 18 to help them figure out what they want to do.
No.
There's a data point that says, 80% of your kids' core values are developed in the first 10 years,
Yep.
right? And so, we have an important job today, of how do we role model what we want them to do in the future, how we're giving them the right opportunities. I mean, even simple things like, what do your kids say when it comes time for summer break? What most kids say? I'm glad it's over. Yeah, I get the summer off, right? And I've been guilty in the past too of, yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. I mean, my comment does not reinforce the importance of lifelong learning. All right.
Yeah.
If they're not learning their entire life all year long, do you take the summer off from learning, Jay? I don't think so.
No,
Right.
and you've met my kids, and you know me. Especially in today's world, I'm pretty hard on them by definition. But it's what builds character, and
Yep.
you can't take the easy route. It's just kind of
Yeah.
the way it works.
Yeah. But that's example of your point, is how I think you are deliberately and thoughtfully showing up to give them their great opportunities, just by the fact you taking them to the, Indy 500. I mean, I just watched them, particularly CJ in action, meeting with people, talking, being able to interact with others. I mean, those are precious lifelong skills that you're providing, let alone some fun too.
Well, and somebody said to me last night, it was really interesting. Actually, you know him, a former PNG guy, who you know well, said to me, "You can teach skills, but you can't through a book. But when you look at your kids, you can't teach character, and you can't teach work ethic without modeling it."
Yeah, our kids are paying attention to who we are and, importantly, how we show up every day. And that can have a huge impact on them as they go along. So, again, these are just my thoughts, Jay. This is a rapidly evolving topic. I welcome
Yep.
any thoughts, comments, feedback from any of your listeners. I mean, and hopefully we can learn together.
Man, I love it. Again, thank you. Give
Yep.
my best to the family, and
I will.
hopefully you'll agree to come on in the future, and
You bet.
we'll keep iterating this.
Thank you for the opportunity, Jay. Take care.
All right. Thanks for watching the deep dive. We'll see you on the next episode.